Hi, it's Corwhin, and this is the first video of 2026, so Happy New Year. Welcome to the new year. Seems a lot like the old year so far. Anyways, I am picking away at getting things planned for the upcoming growing season. I can't do any growing right now. The vegetables that I do have in storage, we're eating them. Most of them have been given away to customers, such as my winter CSA. And one of the things that I'm planning that I had mentioned in the last video was I am working at redesigning, if you can say that, how I grow things in my growing plots. I have about 8 different spots on the farm spread out wherever I can get pieces of land that's not interfering with the other agriculture that's done here, the big field work. And I just use that wonderful soil, wonderful spots, and I make it work. Unfortunately, we've had a number of droughts, and it's just been a little too hard for me to keep making things work, keep trying to get everything alive. And this past year, planting is more than I've ever planted. And then the drought that we had, that made it really difficult to keep everything alive. As in one day, I think I moved myself hand watering over 1,200 liters of water, which was a lot, and that was just one day. There's other days I might have did 800. Not necessarily that much, but it was a lot, and I'm looking to make it more energy efficient for me, less of a risk if there is another drought again, and there definitely will be, and to try to make things a little more efficient in my time as well. I can't be doing a lot of watering. So what I am working on is a plan to take a lot of the growing areas that are hard to keep watered and the weed and all that, and just let them go. Maybe put a cover crop in them, but not grow vegetables, flowers, herbs in them, and put most of that production either along my display garden along the lane or along the 2 gardens that are over by the buildings, which they'll be near a well. That means I can put irrigation to them and irrigation lines. 3 cats nearby so they can take care of a lot of the rodents that will chew on the irrigation lines, and they've done a great job the last year. 4, they're closer to the buildings, so I'm not going as far all over the barn, all over the farm. I could walk 800 meters to one garden or bike there, and then realize I've forgotten a tool and then have to go all the way back to buildings to pick it up. So my energy of walking around the farm and doing things is a lot less, and things I can easily get to if I need to switch from one garden to the other because they're right there. So that is the plan. And how do I make that fruitful? Obviously by giving up some of my growing spaces, even though they're a little too hard, a little too far away to work with. The soil is good, and they have grown a lot of good produce, but that means that I'll be growing less. And I can handle that. I can handle growing a little less. My customers this past year, they got a lot. I don't want to give them as much because what else do I do with it? I can't just throw produce away. Some of them were really good in taking, 10, 12 peppers every week, but I can't be constantly doing that. It can be a little overwhelming. Not everyone has a freezer space that they can chop it up, bag it, and put it in the freezer for the winter use. So the plan is to modify the growing areas that I have and the crop rotation and the plan that I have with them, and to make them more reasonable to have greater area to grow in. So that means the walkways that I have in them, the dugout recessions that I have, were basically to walk along either side of a row, a 3-foot row, and harvest from either side, take a wheelbarrow through, and because they're recessed, if there is a flooding event or major rain event, at least there's a place for the water to go. Because roots for plants do need oxygen, so that oxygen is needed in the soil. Don't ask me the science behind it, but they do need that. And instead of them being at the low level, they can be a little more, a few inches higher, so they're going to have a little more of a breathing space right there. So that's will be gone with those walkways. And they've been great, but I just need that space, so I'll be making things a little denser. And that's the plan, and I'm going to show you how I'm working on that. I was able to find AutoCAD on an old computer. Autodesk, you make it really difficult for someone who's just going to use AutoCAD for a couple times in the year to actually acquire it. I'm not paying, the fees that you have. It's just outrageous. I just want to keep my skills up to date. Anyways, I have a couple of modeling ups, but I'm going to put everything on the big screen just bear with me here. So this is one of my gardens, and this was original plans I had maybe 6 years ago, 7 years ago. And, you know, would it matter? Would I have more difference, you know, if I did it this way than that way, north to south, east to west? You know, don't even worry about where the laneway is right here where it's curving. And this was the ultimate one that I eventually did. This is how the plan is right now. You can see the walkways in between, and every row is about 2.5, 3 feet. And let's see here, area analysis, basically 3,000 square feet. Now I looked at it, what if I just got rid of all the walkways and I just had 6-foot strip rows here? And basically a new crop every 6 feet. This is kind of what I've been doing at the laneway garden or the display garden, you know, but it's just 15 feet across. But, you know, I have a sheet of black plastic that's 6 feet, and I just have a new crop every 6 feet. So if I was able to work that in, square it off, and it works out that I have a 3-foot walkway, I just have the space here, I would get 5,100 square feet. So that's compared to 2,900 over there. But what if I decided I wanted 4 feet? Let's say, you know, I'm going to do 4-foot beds, because you can get 4-foot pieces of landscape fabric. I'd have to go outside the garden a little bit. That's fine, into the grass walkway. And I would put these clover walkways. I could put 3 of them in there. And you could see I go from, what was this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 beds. I could have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 beds. So 8 different possible crops grown across, and that would be 4,600 square feet. So a lot more space being used than what was over here, the 2,900. And that's what I want. I want more space used. Than just what I'm doing right now. And right now, these are strips of landscape fabric about 3 feet across. Takes a lot of work to take the 6-foot ones and cut them up the middle, and then put new hole patterns. I'd have to make new ones, or I could just use some that used in the gardens that I'm shutting down. But this is one of the gardens. If I go, click, window, to another garden. This is a garden I have as well by the buildings. This is the barnyard and the barn over here, and down here is a pasture, and here's a field. So basically what happens is the combine will come around the barn, and it won't really do a loop, you know, a curve in here, because it's just not worth it. Big machinery. So they just do a straight line, and then the pasture keeps going this way, so then they turn and they keep going this way. So what I have done is I originally had looked at, you know, how I was going to use the space. This wasn't, the other garden was a garden earlier before this one, and it looks like this is the current model that I have right now. And area analysis, 2,100 square feet. Now, what if I was to not put any walkways in and just put every piece was a 6-foot section and different crops? So that would be the crop rotation. Obviously, I couldn't exactly get the same amount, so I'd have this, you know, to figure it out, add these small ones in with some large ones so that I could have the same amount, because it's not rectangular. And you want to have consistency year to year of how much you're going to harvest. So some of these small ones would go with some of the big ones, to basically add up to try to have the same amount of crop planted and then eventually harvested. So that's without walkways. But what if I did? What if I just put a walkway in here and kept the same amount, the smallest bed being a length of 26.5? It would go from 2,100 square feet to 3,200 square feet. So we're adding a lot on. And what if I added 2 walkways in but kept everything 6 feet spacing apart? I'd have just over 3,000. And what if I did like the other idea, just having the beds 4 feet across instead of 6 feet, and that would be, and having a number of walkways in there, 4, it looks like. That's what I came up with, having 2,800 square feet. Now, I put them at 6 feet or 4 feet because I use a lot of landscape fabric, because that's what I grow in. Keeps the weeds down, keeps the moisture in if there is moisture, and keeps the soil warm. So if I have something like tomatoes or peppers, and let's just click on. So if I have tomatoes or peppers, this is just something I mocked up here, 20 by 6 foot sheet of landscape fabric. I would have holes, space them out, and they would have no competition from weeds, bare if at all, and they would have all this black space except for where eventually they're growing out, when they grow. And they would have the soil get really warm, and they would also have access to a couple irrigation lines, and that moisture would be held in the soil underneath the plastic, so the roots would have a good time with that. Unfortunately, mice like to hide, and snakes like to hide underneath the landscape fabric. But that's how I work things, is using the landscape fabric, because I will not grow without it, certain crops, and because I just don't have the time to weed, and weeds here are just phenomenally bad. It just happens. We have a lot in southwestern Ontario, is we grow weeds better than anything else. So it's either use chemicals or use smarts, and that's why I've developed this system of using landscape fabric. And I refuse to use black plastic mulch, because it's not reusable. It's single film, so that it tears really easy, and you have to pin it down under soil. This, I have my own little method where I use stakes and bricks and stones and keep it down, and it does really great. And this is using landscape fabric, something that I developed by myself. But if I'm using something like lettuce, I don't use landscape fabric. I need the open area, and I'm just trying to figure out how many rows I could potentially get in a 6 foot area. I'd be growing a lot of lettuce, or arugula, or spinach, because that'll be all the greens I'll be growing. So just trying to figure out the patterns, and this was just a little fun exercise I did last night, trying to figure things out, and just trying to understand. Anyways, all the different colors, these are just layers. Like, I can turn off a layer if I want to get rid of all the dimensions. Boom. Current layer is turned off. All those dimensions are gone, and we're just left with the beds. But yeah, we'll turn that back on. So there's a lot of things you can do with AutoCAD. I like playing around with AutoCAD. Anyways, that's what I've done, and I think I'm going to be using the 6 foot method. It's going to take a little more landscape fabric to put together, but it's going to give me a lot of growing area, and I should be able to grow almost the same amount of crops as I was doing past couple years with the gardens that I will be taking out of production. But with everything close to the buildings, I will be able to irrigate, and I already have my feeder hoses and lines, and these are little irrigation nipples I put in there. I guess I was bored one day, and I will be able to irrigate everything very, very well. And hopefully, if it does come to another drought conditions in the near future, that I will be able to take care of this and not have this problem, and be able to grow vegetables very, very well. So of course, some of you are going to be saying, Barkley, this is overkill. You're using AutoCAD, you're designing all this. Why can't you just do it, piece of paper, do it in your head? Well, all the engineering that I did in college, I don't get to use it that much. The 2008 recession got rid of a lot of jobs, got rid of a lot of the co-op employers that were putting money into my program and the other programs at the college to test us and prepare us, and eventually, figure us out and hire us. So I have these skills, and I like using them once in a while. Yes, it may be a little overkill, but I do enjoy taking those skills that I put a lot of work into in college and putting them to some use. And why not? It makes the things a little more real in the wintertime here, and it actually lets me, instead of just thinking about it, put it on paper, put it on screen, makes it a little more real. So I can start thinking more about what I'm doing, because when it comes to spring, whenever the snow melts, the soil's dry, it's going to be a big go. The start line's there, and it's going to be full sprint. So that's okay, and I don't mind that. So if you want to think it's overkill, that's okay. But I enjoy it, and I like having a plan, because if you don't have a plan, then you're just guessing, and you don't know what you did the previous year because you have nothing written down. And sometimes when you're looking at crop rotations and stuff, especially if you're like Elliot Coleman, who I've read some of his books, it's really great to have a plan for crop rotation because if you have the wrong crops following one another, you won't have a really great harvest. Another thing I'm working on is ordering my seed. Now I've got all my seed ordered as of today. Some of it is already been shipped to me, which is amazing. Another package is in the mail. That's absolutely amazing. And that's one thing I have off my list to worry about. But that was a lot of planning too. What seed I needed to buy, what I'm going to grow, what varieties, and some of it came down to shipping. Shipping costs, whereas I think with Stokes I needed to order $150 worth of seed before they'd actually ship it to me. It was a little bit of, not just write everything down and who has the cheapest price, it was also trying to figure out the shipping and try to limit some of my other costs if I wasn't getting for such things like Vessies, if I wasn't was able to reduce myself in weight, I would miss that shipping increase. If I was over a pound or an ounce or a kilogram or a gram, then I'd be into a new shipping category that'd be more expensive. So it was a little bit of figuring out, but that's done. That's something I don't have to worry about. Next is worrying about the budget. Maybe we'll talk about that next video. Maybe I'll have something more interesting. Anyways, thanks for watching. I hope this gets you a little more excited about what you're doing for your growing, or understand some of the plans for a market gardener such as myself. There are probably over a dozen of us in Welland County who offer farm shares or CSAs or veggie boxes, however you want to word it. And I know there is a lot in the other areas around as well in Southern Ontario. So good luck with your planning and your seed ordering, and get everything ready for your market garden or just your backyard garden. That's great. But remember, finish your vegetables, buy something local, be good to each other. We will see you next video, and enjoy the winter while it lasts, because it's good to have a little break from other things and have a chance to work on things we don't usually have time to in the summer. See you again.